the thing we're here to talk about today, the most underrated content strategy, which by the way, I kind of tricked you because it's not a strategy in a sense, but also it is. So surprise, surprise. Um, but it is how much what we have in is what comes out in content. And I have like lots of thoughts around this, but have you guys heard of the coffee cup thing? Um, and I can read it to you. Oh no, I can't. I closed it out. Oh, I'm so silly. Let me see if I can find it really quick. But I think that, so there's this beautiful like coffee cup quote that like always gets passed around, and it's about like when hard things happen in life. And the gist of it is like what's inside you will spill out. So like if something really, really tough happens in life, like for example, you're holding a cup of coffee and someone bumps into you, well, what happens? The coffee spills out. Why? Because coffee is what's in there, right? If tea was in there, tea would spill out. Or if like a soda was in there, soda would spill out. And so the analogy this quote makes is that when life gets hard, i.e., bumps into you, what's inside will spill out. And so, like, if you already have whatever, like you're already constantly in a state of pessimism and frustration, and life bumps into you, pessimism and frustration are going to spill out. But I think that this applies so strongly to content, which is not just like when life bumps into you or things get hard, but like content is the epitome of like what is in you spills out of you. Okay. And that's like good, bad, or indifferent. I don't even just mean when life gets tough. I just mean like your content is a reflection of like what is happening in here, whether it comes out in your words or not. And so I have like a million examples I want to talk about here, but like we have to see that as part of the content strategy, right? Like there is an energetic piece behind all of this. And I think our industry has gone like really over the top sometimes with all the like energetic stuff and the codes and like somebody has a code we don't have and blah, 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 blah. But there is like an energetics to everything we do. Like you can feel someone's energy. I think most of us in this space are quite empathic and we can like read an energy even if the words don't match it, right? We're like, I hear you saying that you really like me, but it really seems like you don't like me, or some version of that, right? So content is the same. Like I hear you saying everything's great, but like doesn't always read like that. That is real. And so sometimes we can be so fixated on like, how do I say the exact right words in my content instead of like, who am I being when I create the content? What am I bringing to my content? Am I taking care of and cultivating what's in here so that when I show up in content, it's actually easy because it's just like a transmission of that and it's authentic and all of those things versus if I feel really, really, really like, for example, deeply insecure in here, but then I'm trying to put out content like I'm the baddest bitch on the planet. Of course, that's not going to translate. And then you're going to be like, see, no one thinks I'm the baddest bitch on the planet. And it's going to be this self-reinforcing wheel, right? Where you put it out there and no one reflects it to you. And so then you feel even worse and you feel even more insecure and right? And we don't say all of that enough. We're like, yeah, 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 but like, what's the thing I'm saying in content instead of like, what is the transmission I'm giving, right? Claire said yes, and how can that be replaced by AI? It just can't, in my opinion. Right, totally. I mean, listen, up to this point, the robot can't feel, right? Right. So like the robot can say, use these words, but what's the like energy behind those words? And for me, when I read AI content, I feel no energy behind it. It feels soulless. It feels devoid of anything. That's why when you scroll and you see AI content after AI content where everyone is quietly doing something, you're like, oh my God, this is soulless, right? Like it just feels ick. Um, Lisa said, after having tried every content strategy under the sun, I just realized at some point it's for sure the energy and confidence and embodiment that makes a difference. Yep, yep. That is meant on the planet. Yes. Right. Where like if you believe you're the baddest bitch on the planet, you don't even really have to say that in your content. It just translates, right? Um, so I'll give you an example of this based on what I was saying earlier about grief. So I went away for my birthday, and Friday was my birthday, and I just had the toughest grief day of missing my dad. Like it was so intense. I haven't had one that intense. Like, grief comes in waves, right? It's been 3.5 years for me. I had more waves at the beginning. I have less waves now, but I haven't had one that intense in like forever. And so when I was going to post today about turning 40, I was like, I just have to post about that because if I try to post this perfect, like, look at me and look at this and yay, trip, fun, like, it's not going to translate. Like, people are going to read that and be like, oh, that's good, but like, something seems weird there. Or like, I'm so happy for your birthday, yay, but like, what's off? And they might not even know, but there would have been like an off energy because the true energy around my birthday this year, unfortunately, it was sad. Like, I had a really hard grief day. Um, and so it doesn't mean I'm not going to like post something else and like share cute photos or share lessons up to 40 or whatever. But like the transmission was the most clean and clear when I was like, this is where I was at. Right. And I think that that's what keeps it having a soul, feeling authentic, where you're not just like, that's cute on the surface, but what else is underneath? Or like, yeah, that seems right, but that's not the read I'm getting on it. Because when I was trying to post from that, like, excited place, like it just wasn't there because that wasn't the experience of it. Does that make sense? So I feel like we have to cultivate what is inside the coffee cup because whatever is in the coffee cup is what's going to spill out in our content, right? And we have to think about it like that. Like I'm literally spilling every day what's inside. And so even if the words are like nothing to do with it, I'll give you an example of that in a second. Like the energy is still there. And like Claire said, the energy is what sets us apart from the robots at this point and is like really, really important. And especially in this work we're doing, like the energy of why someone would hire us is so crucial. Like you want to match with the energy of the person you're hiring. And if you can't touch it and if you can't feel it, or if there's always something that feels a little off, it's going to be really hard to get hired, honestly, right? Um, Manali said, I have such a tough time with this. And I think the conditioning around look like you have it all together all the time is so strong. Oh my God, it's super strong. Like the strongest because it feels better to a lot of us when we're faking it, if that makes sense. Like it feels better to be like, it's all perfect for me. Look at it. It's all good. Like, I think that's why so many people are attracted to people who market like that. Right? Um, they're really attracted to the like, oh, I could get to a place in my life where it all feels perfect. Like, I think that is incredibly attractive from a marketing perspective. It's just that we have to be discerning enough to be like, but it's not real. Right? It's just like I could spin this whole birthday trip to be like, that was the most perfect trip. It was amazing in every way, blah, blah, blah. And like there are pieces of truth in that, but like I cried a lot on Friday. Like that's not the full truth, And I'm not saying you owe your audience the full truth all the time. Like I didn't have to share that. Like I don't owe anybody sharing that. However, and this is the big one, if I'm never willing to share that, there will be a disconnect and or I will just attract people who think I can give them a recipe to perfection. And like, that's not the kind of coaching I do or that I want to do, right? I think a lot of people market to perfection and then they don't end up with clients they're really happy with because those clients expect perfection. They're like, well, you said everything is perfect for you. How can it be perfect for me? Oh my gosh, of course I shouldn't have a hard day. Of course that nothing should go wrong. Of course this shouldn't be challenging. Do you know what I mean? Because they're marketing to like nothing is challenging, everything's perfect. And we all know that's not how it is. Like, that's not real life. That's not coaching. That's not business. That's not anything, right? Like, again, perfect trip. And I had a hard grief day. Like there's coexisting in all of this. And I think if we're trying to get out of the place where that coexists, like we're not going to have that much fun in coaching, is kind of my opinion. Let's see. I felt you, Lacey, and I actually cried and was coming back to comment later and say, I love your heart for sharing. Oh, thank you, Claire. I find this to be so much easier in the early stages of business because it's messy and it's allowed to be messy. I think once you hit certain milestones and you are the expert, it's harder to be messy, even though we are still just the same mess. Well, I think what happens, I think that's so real, Christina. And I think what happens is you guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to be kind of a bitch for a second, but like, here we go. What happens is that when people won't market to that, hold on, I want to read what you're saying. What do you mean I have to be vulnerable and do the inner work? I'll take the viral hook instead. Yeah, fuck that shit, right? And also make themselves wrong and don't feel held because they can't bring it. Yes, yes. Okay, so the thing I see that happens with a lot of people making like seven figures and beyond is they won't share the mess until like a year and a half later. And so like the vast majority of their marketing becomes something that sounds like a year and a half ago, I was completely burnt out in every imaginable way. And now I have found a way to make things perfect. And then a year and a half later, it'll be like a year and a half ago, I was actually struggling so much. And now it's all better and perfect. Like that is some people's entire marketing strategy, you guys. And like, I'm not talking like in a joking way. I'm talking about like some of the biggest names in our industry. Like that is their entire marketing strategy. Is where there's always this like year and a half or year gap to where everything was shit and now it's better. And you're like, wait a minute, but like I thought a year ago you were saying everything was perfect. I'm so confused, you know? It's like it really, because they know they have to share vulnerability, but because it feels tough to do it. And I'm not trying to say that that person is being scammy or whatever. I'm just trying to say, like, it does get really hard to share it. And so then that becomes the marketing. And when you do that enough times, your audience will lose trust over time, right? Christina feels personally attacked. Okay. I love a personal live stream attack. Manali said, I think also acting like everything is okay is somewhat a coping strategy. So it becomes doubly hard for sure. What do you find is the line between letting everyone know versus just your current clients behind the scenes? Okay, I'm going to answer that in 1 second. That is so true. Yeah. I have felt so gaslit by coaches who did that. And I was like, wait, I hired you a year and a half ago. Right. You're like, wait, I was the one hiring you then when you were saying everything was fine. And it's not that they have to say everything is hard, but it's just so weird, right? Like 95% of the top 1%. 95. Yes, not exactly, Christina. 95% of the top 1% in the online space market that way. I was burnt out, then I found X. Now I'm not burnt out. I'm making a ton of money. Now I'm teaching you X. Like literally, you guys, if you want the entire marketing strategy for making millions of dollars, Christina just wrote it out for you. Like that is what happens. And I think what can happen there is that during that time, they were really burnt out. Some of us will be consuming their content going, something seems a little off. It's probably just me. I probably just am resistant to things being so easy. I probably just am not reading the content quite right. Like we gaslight ourselves when we feel that disconnection in the content, right? When we're like, I hear her saying everything's great, but it seems like really weird. And then we're like, no, 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 it must be me. In fact, I should probably hire her because if I'm questioning it, it means I don't accept ease into my life. Hired. You guys know I'm serious. Um, And so that makes it so easy to gaslight ourselves instead of being like, if it's true for them, it's true for me, and vice versa. Like this goes both ways. What is in will come out in someone's content. And I can read I hate saying this word because it makes me like sound so word salady, but like the energetic signature of that, right? And I can trust that instead of using it to weaponize against myself. Something feels off here, but it must just be me. It must just be because I won't accept these. Like maybe something's off, you know? Um, and then it's also true for us, right? So we have to figure out, so to answer Manali's question, excuse me, we have to figure out like what feels like an authentic share of what's inside and what is obviously also something that like we want to keep private. Um, to me, the way I try to think about it is like, I'll use the grief as an example. When I go to write, when I was going to write about my birthday, I can just feel that, right? So, like, for me to not talk about that, it was going to translate weird. And if you're not a big feeling person, because I know sometimes it's hard to be like, I don't know what I would feel about that. I think what you really want to think about is, does this feel like a truly authentic share, or does this feel like what I'm supposed to be shared? Right? And I'm not saying that we never go, oh, I need to talk about my lunch right now, or I need to talk about X, but I am saying we go, does this feel like the authentic truth or does this feel like a performance? Right? Because of course, social media is occasionally a performance and that you're literally lip syncing a thing or something. But overall, it should feel like a true version of you and not a performance. Like I can see in my own content, and I bet if everyone here went back and looked at their stuff, I can see when I was in a really good place and I can see when things were more tough for me. Like I really can. Like it's so obvious for me to like go back and witness that. And like that doesn't have to be bad. Like I don't want this to make anyone feel self-conscious or whatever. Like I was making money that whole time. Okay? Like it is not like, "Oh my God, and you won't make money." It's just to say like we can already feel it so we don't have to pretend it. Right? Like there's this book that I read a long time ago. Actually, I should reread it. It's a very good book. It's called Letting Go. And one of the things he says in it that has stuck with me so strongly, if you were back in my value centered sales days, which I know a couple of you were, I literally taught this in value centered sales around sales, which is assume people can read your mind. Like that was his thing. Assume everyone can read your mind because it's so much more obvious than we give it credit for. Like, so if on a sales call you're thinking, "Oh, I really wonder if they're ready for that," or "I want to ask them that question," or like, "Why are they sticking themselves there?" Just assume they can read it and fucking say it. Because if you're holding back, they can still read that energy, right? And so he was basically saying the best way you could possibly go through life is to just assume everyone's reading your mind. And if you assume that in content, like it will feel very, very confronting in some ways, but it also gets so much easier. So much easier. Because you're like, well, they can already tell that I hate XYZ in the online space, or they already know I'm kind of having an off day, or they already can tell that my birthday didn't go quite how I wanted it to. Like, why not just tell them? You know? Um, and so when you go from that, like, assume they can read your mind stance, it really does get so much simpler because you're not feeling like I have to perform. You're like, they probably already know. What if I built trust by closing that gap? Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna like harp on my husband for a second. He's gonna be like, "Did you seriously say that?" But like he takes a minute to catch up with his feelings. So he'll feel something and then he'll like, it takes him a minute, you know what I mean, to like realize what he's feeling. So I'll be like, "Are you frustrated at me?" And he's like, "No, I'm not frustrated at all." And I'm like, "You're really giving frustrated." Like, "You sure?" He's like, "I'm not frustrated at all." I'm like, okay, yeah. It's just, it's reading frustrated. And then like 45 minutes later, he'll be like, "You know what? I was really frustrated earlier. I, yeah, yeah, you were right. I was frustrated earlier about XYZ thing." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, interesting." But like the point is, like, it's obvious most of the time. We know. Okay. And like, yes, that's true in a conversation with my husband, but it's also true in our content. It's also true in how we post. It's also true in how we show up. And that's why we get in these situations where we can like be doing everything right. And it's like not hitting, right? And I think the audience is especially sensitive to this because of the trust stuff that we always talk about now. Is like, if I can read that something's off, I'm losing trust. And then you add this AI layer to it. And it's like, not only can I read that something's off, but I can barely feel your soul in it. And I can tell you're using AI wording. The gap between us is so wide now. I cannot feel you. I can't connect with you. I cannot trust you. I cannot assume that that you are not going to be one of these people who's telling me now that life is perfect only a year and a half later to tell me how it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you make the chasm that wide, it is so hard to overcome that. And quite honestly, the only thing that really overcomes that in the online space, just to be as transparent as possible, is if you make a shitload of money and can use that. That is the only thing. Like, if you can be like, "And I made $1 million a month," you know what? People will jump over that chasm. They'll be like, "Yeah, feels weird, but fuck it. I want to make $1 million a month." If you aren't doing some version of that, it's really hard to jump the gap. It's just the truth, right? And so when we keep trying to jump the gap without this other piece that makes people want to jump for it, I'm not saying it has to be $1 million a month, but you guys get what I'm saying. We're just constantly stuck. And we're like, why does it feel like people can't make it over? Well, because we just made it so wide. It's not worth the risk to jump, right? Um, so with this, there are so many things I'd love to spill over. And also, where is the line between dirty laundry and value, other than what's personal is universal? That's where I pull back. Maybe it's the holding the duality of you can have a super successful business and your personal life can feel like a shit show, permission giving. I think that how do I want to say it? I think that like I feel strongly that you should never feel like you owe it to your audience to like share your dirty laundry or whatever. But I do feel like there is a piece where if it feels like a secret, it's a red flag. Meaning, um, I have shared, this is a good example. I have shared that I did like a lot of work on like family of origin stuff and have had like a lot of processing and therapy around like family stuff and like have changed a lot of like how I've related to that in the last year. That's probably about as far as I'm going to take that conversation because past that, it starts to feel like dirty laundry and it also starts to feel like it's not just my story. So, like, I'm being authentic about the part that is true for me. I've done a lot of work in therapy and processing around that. And, like, there's a piece beyond that where it would just feel like I'm just sharing something vulnerable to share it, for example, like instead of like because I truly feel aligned and want to share this. Um, so I feel like that could be a good example of like you get to decide what that is, but you guys know like in my past work, I worked in a treatment center and so big AA fan. And one of the things in AA that I think about all the time, and I tell clients all the time, is this saying, which is your secrets keep you sick, right? And I think that really applies to content too. So it is not a secret that I've done that work or that I was really engaged in that work or whatever. Like if I felt like I was out here talking about like be your most authentic self and do the inner work and whatever, and I wasn't sharing that I had to go through a lot of that work, that would feel like a secret, like something I was hiding, like, oh yeah, but I don't want them to know that like I had some family stuff I had to work through. Like, right. But I also don't like have to divulge every element of it. So I think it's like if it feels secretive, like I should hide that. I shouldn't say that. Oh my God, what will someone think if I tell them that? Da, da, da. Like that stuff I think is worth excavating, right? Because our secrets really do keep us sick and they're what create this gap sometimes in content. But again, you get to decide like what version of that feels good to you to tell, what's yours, and then you get to decide what the message is around that, right? Um, like, is the message life gets to be of duality, whatever, like that's a lot of my message. So I say that a lot. Like that might be a version of it for someone else, or it might be totally different. But like I do think like you want it to feel like you're making a tie-in that feels important. And or you're just like, I want you to know me as a human. And like that's okay too. Um, that is actually such an interesting conversation because sometimes the super vulnerable content feels off and performative to me. What I experience, not Lisa, and I don't know if this is your experience too, where it feels off to me or where it tends to feel off to me, and this is a personal thing, by the way, this is not like a business strategy I'm telling you, I'm just like talking to you as a human who consumes content, is when you're like deep in someone's personal story and then all of a sudden there's a slide that's a sales pitch where it's like we're talking about like them being in the depths of hell or whatever, and then it's like, by the way, get my new AI tool or whatever, and you're like, what? Like I just followed you into the depths of your soul and now what? So I don't know if it's just that for everyone else, but like I think that like, also I would say like that might just be one of those things where like your read is right, like the energy is there, like maybe they are being super performative and maybe it feels performative because it is. Um, Good. Thank you, Claire. Christina said, for me, I use a relevancy test. So gaining 30 pounds and not wanting to show up on camera relevant for an IG coach versus my kid being bullied at school, not remotely relevant to my platform. This doesn't work for every niche, but makes it easy for me. Yes, I love that. Totally. Like where it's like this share or this experience I'm having is relevant to the audience I have. And or if I'm sharing about like the kid being bullied, I'm just kind of sharing as like a human, not for the perspective of my audience. So I either can choose because I want to do that, do it, or I can choose that I don't want to, and so I'm not going to do it, right? Um, but like again, what is in will spill out, right? So like for Christina saying the like not wanting to show up on camera, that's going to spill out. And so like it kind of makes sense to be like, hey, I'm happy to share this because like it's going to spill out anyway, right? It's like back to that like assume everyone can read your mind thing. Like it's already going to spill out because it's already like your audience is already experiencing it. I did a reel about this the other day, but I saw this post of somebody is that like came up on my explore page and I was like, oh, this girl's really cute. It was like this funny self-deprecating kind of post and I was like, oh, that's funny. So I went to follow her and looked at her like her main feed page and it was like all that and I was like, oh, it's all this. And the whole page, like when I looked at it and put it together like that, it felt like this apology for like the choices she's made or the way she's living her life. Like it was so self-deprecating and it felt so apologetic. And again, it wasn't even like the content itself, right? It wasn't like her main topic, wasn't like about self-love or anything like that. But like the content just read that way because every single piece of content felt like some kind of apology for the choices she's made. And so to me, it was like that's the example of it all spills out, where it's like, oh, it's really obvious that this is maybe a thing she's struggling with. Totally fine. We all have our struggles. I'm sure any one of us could have someone like dissect our shit and figure that out. But I think that's why we have to be careful of what's happening in here, though, and to like cultivate that because it will come out. It doesn't mean don't post unless it's perfect, or it doesn't mean you have to be internally perfect for it, right? It just means this is what we cultivate is what's in the cup. And then everything else gets easier. When we're trying to focus on everything else and not cultivating what's in the cup, it does get a bit harder, right? Because it will feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm efforting so hard and it's not happening. That's usually the culprit. And it's like really hard to like name that. And I think we also don't want it to be that, like it would be so much easier if it was that thing that someone discovered that took them out of burnout a year and a half ago. You know what I mean? Like it would be so much better if it was that. The idea that we have to like worry about what's in our cup is, I think, very daunting sometimes. But to me, it's like if that's the work we do, everything gets better from there. Um, Lisa said yes, that. And sometimes when people use their trauma dumping as like a weird strategy to go viral, if that makes sense, it definitely makes sense. Yes, 100%. Um, like another example for me that I talked about in that reel was like the number one piece of feedback I always get on my content is like, you're so grounded. And I just am a very grounded human. Like I'm a Taurus. Like Elisa, I think you will appreciate this. Like my Taurus is also in Venus. Like I am very grounded in the like from an energy standpoint. And so like I have never been like, oh, I'm gonna go create a grounded piece of content. I want to come off grounded in my content. Let me go make a grounded like never once has that crossed my mind. However, it's what's in, so it spills out. So that's why everyone's saying to me, your content is so grounded, right? Because I am so grounded. Does that make sense? Right? And like, that's not necessarily good or bad. It just is. Like, if someone, like, I think a lot of other people have content that just brings fire and like all this excitement and da da da, da, right? Like, intensity. And that can be very activating content, but it's like probably because they are a very intense, activating person. Like, and so if you're trying to replicate that, but you're a grounded Taurus, it's going to feel like a mismatch and you're going to constantly feel performative and you're going to constantly feel like you're not quite there and your audience is going to constantly not resonate with it, right? You almost just have to double down on what's there and use it to your advantage, right? In many ways, I think the most activating content is not really grounded content, to be honest. Like, I don't think I provide the most activating or like get you to buy or like get you high kind of content at all. Like, it's not how I'm built. You know what I mean? But as soon as I like take that in and go, oh, that's not how I'm built. So like I'm just really grounded. What does it look like to share that? What does it look like to do that? It gets so much fucking easier. Um, and again, it's not to say anything is better or worse or whatever. It's just like what is in comes out. If that is all we go off of, it will be so much simpler to do this whole content thing. And when we go, someone else's content that gets people so high is the only way to scale, we are going to feel insane. I remember feeling like that at the beginning of my business. Like I was like, I don't like bring the fucking hype all the time. Like I'm not like that in person either. Like I'm a good time. I'm not saying that, but like I'm grounded. I'm steady. I'm pretty stable. I'm pretty chill. Like so I felt like, well, maybe that there's not room for me in the online space, but like, of course there is. Like, of course there is. Of course we want grounded, stable, chill sometimes. Like that is what many of my clients come to me for as the like number one thing, right? It's just about like finding the right people for that instead of like the people who want you to get them high. Like they're not hiring me. That's okay. I don't want them to hire me. That's not the work I want to do, you know? Love that. Grounded Taurus energy. Yes. Um, yes. So permission giving. I appreciate this so much. Yeah. Like as soon as I was like, well, I'm just this way. So what if I was just this way? It got easier. And then when I'm this way, it comes out in content. It comes out as authentic. It comes out as truthful. It comes out as the energy's not weird or off or whatever, right? And so, excuse me, that's kind of the whole thing, right? And the coffee cup is such an easy way to remember it because it's like, well, what's in the cup spills out of the cup. What's in my cup right now? Oh, yeah, grounded energy, stability. Da, da, da. Okay, great. Spill it on out. You know, if what's in your cup is that you're having a really hard week, find a way to share that that feels authentic, right? If what's in your cup is that you're really excited about something, great, spill it out. You know what I mean? Like, I also think that's when like launches and all of that go the best. When like what is in the cup is you're fucking excited about this launch or this thing or this product or whatever. Like that is what works. When you are and you're trying to write the best email, but you're not that jazzed on it, that energy is always going to come through. So even if the words are perfect, it's hard to see. And again, I think AI has given us this really clear insight into this because I would be so curious if y'all feel this way, but you can just feel the difference in energy when something is written by AI and something is not, right? I mean, like, there is just such a clear energetic difference that we can go, oh, well, if that's true there, it's probably true everywhere, right? It's probably not just true when AI writes something, it's probably true when I write something that's not at all how I feel about it. It's probably true when I say something that's not actually what's real, you know? Um, okay, okay, I needed that. And if we see it as that, then we can do that work. We can be like, I am selling a thing that I'm not excited about. How do I get excited? Oh, yeah, I want to talk about X, but my brain tells me I should be perfect. How do I let myself be imperfect? Like that, if that is the work, right? I want to be really loud about that, but something is telling me that it might not be good enough. How can I deal with my good enoughness, with my enoughness stuff, right? Like if we keep coming back to that work, it will get so much easier, so much better. The content will flow so much more effectively if we keep circling the drain on like, how do I just like make this one email better, even though I'm not that excited about this offer? We are going to feel like we're putting in so much work to everything we're doing and not getting the results we want. This is incredibly underrated as a strategy goes, right? Because you can work the strategy until you're blue in the face, but if it's ultimately not like, again, I could work the strategy of like, hype my audience, get them excited, get on a stage, blah, blah, blah. I could do all of that work and it still probably wouldn't translate. Like I remember I it's been it's probably been a few years because I don't love to travel as much with Bennett, but there was like a time where I was speaking a lot. And I remember for one of the whatever speaking engagements, I was like, I'm just not feeling it. Like the audience was like really not super engaged with a lot of people and whatever. And so I just was like, hey, can everybody just like bring their chairs up and we'll just like sit in a circle around the stage and I'm just gonna like sit in it and talk to y'all. And like that was the best version for me at the time, right? Like I was not gonna get on the stage to an audience that's already pretty cool, like cool as in not warm, pretty cool, and then like get them all hyped. Like I know that's not me. I know that's not how I tend to work, but I could definitely like bring them in. I could definitely be like, let's chat, let's talk, let's engage with one another. Let me tell you things about this, blah, 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 right? And so I feel like we just have to know like what is our thing. And when we keep trying to work the wrong thing, we're going to feel perpetually frustrated. Like I could have gotten on that stage and been like, well, this feels really weird and bad and definitely don't think this is my thing, but like it's supposed to be my thing. And if I was good enough, this would be my thing. And so let me try. And then the audience just stares at me. I would have walked off feeling so bad, being like, I'm never going to speak again. I'm not good at this. I'm not enough. This is terrible. Or I would have like gone and hired one of these people that like found some magical secret that blah, 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 right? Instead of like the thing was, what's in here and how do I give myself permission to let it out? What's in here is that I just want to talk to you. I'm going to give myself permission to let it out, even though that's weird, even though that's not what I told the, person I was going to do, even though blah, 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 like permission for it to come out. And when we give it permission to come out, it starts to align when we're like, oh my God, don't spill the cup, don't spill the cup, because I don't want them to see what's in the cup because the cup is a secret. And the secret is that I'm not good enough and I'm not good at this and da, da, da. It feels insane. So, in my opinion, this is the work. It is the work that makes every single thing from a sales call to content to whatever easier, but especially content because it is the spilling every day. Like if you literally think about content, it is like your ideas, your thoughts spilling out into the world every day. So you have to be like, what am I spilling? Right? And if I'm not working on what I'm spilling, I cannot control what's like the kind of energy that's being translated. And I don't mean control in the sense that like be performative, but I mean control in the sense that like it's just clean, it's just authentic, right? Okay, so I hope this helps. I know this can feel really permission giving on one hand and really overwhelming on another. But just remember, this doesn't mean it's something that you shouldn't still post, like while you're working on what's in the cup or whatever. Like, absolutely not that at all. It just means you go, oh, yeah, what's in the cup matters. And it just gives you a reason to come back to center, to come back to you, to engage with yourself and your feelings. And that will help your business every single time, no matter what. Cool. Cool. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Hope that y'all have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.